This episode had no title sequence, throwing us straight into the action, so I thought it only right to take the same approach for my review. And I don't mean that in a sarcastic way at all. It's a controversial opinion, I know, but as with The Woman Who Fell to Earth, I think it really worked in this episode's favour to leave out the title sequence. Yes, it could have come after the prologue-style opening scene, but even then, I think it would have disrupted the flow of the episode a bit too much. Besides, no other episode in the West career so far has featured a pre-credits scene. They all start straight in with the titles before moving on to the rest of the episode. Why should Resolution break that mould? Another side effect of leaving out the opening titles is the sense of anticipation created by their absence. It's not till the very end that the episode's title is seen on screen, before, at last, the theme tune is heard again. Similarly absent for the majority of this episode is its main foe, the Dalek. For as long as I can remember, there were rumours that the Daleks, or at least a singular Dalek, would be back for the festive special, but their return wasn't officially confirmed until Christmas Day. Having said that, even then all we got was a very short audio clip of a Dalek shouting, "Exterminate!" What the Dalek would actually look like was kept a secret, right up until broadcast. Now on the one hand, I think the decision to not show the Dalek in publicity material is a questionable one, but on the other, I think it really pays off in the context of the story. From the moment we see the redesigned mutant squid in the sewers, it's clear that this Dalek is unlike any other. Separated from its outer casing, it has a relentless drive for survival, which makes it all the more dangerous and unpredictable. Throughout the episode, we're never quite sure what form it will take on next, and what size or shape it will eventually end up once it's rebuilt itself. Before it gets its new casing, this Dalek spends a good deal of the episode in human form, using Lynn as a puppet. We've seen Dalek puppets of a sort before in the Moffat era. In Asylum of the Daleks, it was established that the creatures can use nanobots to animate, or reanimate, human bodies, and turn them into security guards. But Chibnall takes this idea to a whole new level in this episode, with the Dalek mutant physically attaching itself to a human host, and using them as a means of transport. In terms of the story, this also gives the Dalek a voice, and more importantly, a voice that isn't just a robotic monotone, or in other words, Nick Briggs. By giving it a voice, Chibnall gives this Dalek a unique identity. It becomes a character in its own right, which is much more interesting than it just being another generic Dalek. And it's fitting that the first Dalek to face our first female Doctor is also one that manifests itself as a female. Furthermore, there's a satisfying symmetry between the scenes of the Dalek as Lynn rebuilding its casing in the barn, and the Doctor making her new sonic screwdriver way back in The Woman Who Fell to Earth. As it happens, I'm pretty sure they reused some of the set elements from Rahul's workshop from the opener in the barn set too. And what of the new Dalek design? Well, first of all, it's important to stress that it is just a one-off design. Chibnall himself has said that much. But I must say, I actually really like it. Yes, some of the proportions are a bit off, and it looks slightly cobbled together, but then that's kind of the point. For what it is, I think it's pretty awesome, and whilst I like the 2005 bronze design, I do think it's starting to look a bit dated. This new Dalek didn't appear until 2/3 of the way into the episode, and so, in a sense, it's a shame that we didn't get to see more of it. But holding it back this far made the reveal so much more exciting in my opinion. Plus, the way it was used in these final 20 minutes more than made up for the lack of Dalek scenes earlier in the story. My favourite Dalek scene by far was the army set piece, an outstanding feat of direction, choreography and visual effects that truly establishes this Dalek as a force to be reckoned with. I've lost count of the number of times I've rewatched it. It's got to be one of the most impressive Dalek showdowns in the whole of Doctor Who history. Running parallel with the Dalek plot was the subplot of Ryan's reconciliation with his dad, and I think it's a bit of a shame that this thread was reduced to a subplot and not resolved in its own episode. I think it was always going to feel a bit overshadowed by the main focus of the episode, that is, the Daleks. Unfortunately, the scene between Ryan and Aaron in the cafe does drag a bit in my opinion, and some of the dialogue felt quite forced, to me at least. But putting that aside, I thought this part of the episode was handled fairly well actually. It gave Tosin Cole a real chance to shine, and I think that long take in the cafe might just be his best performance yet as Ryan. It also provides some sort of closure to the theme of family that ran throughout Series 11. In one of the best lines of the episode, Graham reminds us that family isn't just about DNA or a name, it's about what you do. Indeed, the most prominent family unit in this series was Team TARDIS, none of whom are blood relatives. But equally, it's important to try and get along with the family that you were born into, where possible. The end of the episode reinforces this idea, with Ryan finding it in him to forgive his dad and passing on good terms with him. Something I didn't notice until I rewatched this episode is that the lines of narration that open and close it are remarkably similar. In terms of structure, they're practically identical. Both begin by establishing a date or time, a long time ago, and the first day of the year 2019. They both mention Britain. They both speak of an unlikely army coming together to face an impossible opponent. This seems to suggest a parallel between the battle against the Dalek in the 9th century and the Doctor's struggle against the same foe in the present day. But crucially, there are one or two amendments to this line when it crops up again in the episode's climax. Whereas the opening line talks of an army of enemies, the closing line refers to an army of friends, which to me ties into the idea of the Doctor and her fam, or in the case of this episode, her extended fam, working together as a team to save the day. And whilst both groups faced the impossible opponent that is the Dalek, only the Doctors prevailed. This harks back to a line of the Doctor's from the Saranga Conundrum: people prevail, hope prevails. Overall, I think the power of the human spirit, whether that be in the form of hope, or love, or teamwork, has been a key idea in Series 11. And so it was fitting that this episode ended with such a statement, as well as that beautiful shot of Lynn and Mitch holding hands as the TARDIS flies away. Prior to its broadcast, Resolution was described as a blockbuster version of Doctor Who. In this respect, it certainly lived up to expectations. From the off, it felt more like a feature film than another instalment of a TV drama, with plenty of action sequences, location shifts, and set pieces. Chris Chibnall delivered a brilliant new take on the Daleks, successfully reaffirming the creatures as the Doctor's deadliest foes. Overall, Resolution is a tour de force from all involved. If we had to just have one episode of Doctor Who in 2019, I'm glad it was this one. And before I draw this video to a close, here are some random thoughts about the episode that I couldn't fit into my main review. The visual effects were top notch in this episode, from CGI to practical effects and everything else. There were some gorgeous shots of the space fireworks and the TARDIS zooming through the vortex, and I think Double Negative have really done themselves proud, not only in this episode, but also across the whole series. The prosthetic for the Dalek Mutant was really great too. It could really easily have been done just as CGI, but it works so much better as a prosthetic in my opinion. But perhaps most impressive of all was the Dalek casing, which, as I understand, was controlled completely remotely, with no operator inside. Just brilliant. A lot of this episode was set inside the TARDIS, and I must say, seeing so much of it has really made me appreciate this set a tiny bit more. I doubt it'll ever be my favourite, but I think it does really suit Jodie's Doctor, especially in terms of the colours, those violets and oranges and dark blues, and just the overall aesthetic. Now the Daleks have a bit of a history with sewers, don't they? I make this the third time we've seen a Dalek in a sewer, the other two occasions being Daleks in Manhattan / Evolution of the Daleks, and The Witch's Familiar, when the sewers, quite literally, were revolting. It was so exciting to get a reference to UNIT, and I found the joke about them being disbanded really quite funny, to be honest. We've had Earth Invasion episodes before, where UNIT has been strangely absent, and so I like the idea that they actually justified that here as part of the plot. Yes, I get why this moment rubbed up some people the wrong way. Is it in Doctor Who's remit to make jokes about Brexit? Perhaps not, perhaps that is overstepping the line a bit far. But overall, I was just really pleased to hear UNIT get a mention, and Kate Stewart as well, which was something I just wasn't expecting at all. And don't worry, because of course they'll be back one day, right? The best bit of this episode for me was that bit with the family where the Wi-Fi's going off and they say, I guess we'll actually have to have a conversation. It was just brilliant, a great bit of social commentary for me. I know some people absolutely despised this moment and thought it was the worst thing ever, but I thought it was just brilliant. So that does it for this review, and for my whole Series 11 reviews. I said that last time, but this is actually it for good now, and for good until 2020, I guess. So, all that's left to do is for me to ask you to leave your thoughts on Resolution in the comments below, your mini reviews, I'd love to hear what you think, and to thank you so much for watching all of the Series 11 reviews, especially this one, and I'll see you soon for an overall review of the series, as well as plenty of other Doctor Who videos. So, goodbye for now, guys.